Okay, good evening everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Let's see. Alright, how are you guys doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. And what about you, Landon? Good to have you back. Good. Hopefully you had a fun time at your, where is it? Lacrosse camp? Is that where you went? Hockey camp, alright. One of my relatives is playing lacrosse right now in high school, so I hear all about that. Let me give it a few more minutes in case maybe she's going to join. Alright, I'm just going to start by writing where we left off. Let me see. You guys start packing your backpacks for school yet? You're back to school shopping?
Nope.
Not yet? Yeah.
No.
It's a sad time of the year, right? When we have to start going back to school.
Starts on the 31st, so like...
The 31st? What day is it today? 18th. Alright. So we got a little more time. Normally, around this part of the year, that's when I would be going around starting to buy notebooks and pencils and pens and all that stuff to go back to school. But can you believe every time we meet, we're that much closer to going back to school? Which is unfortunate because our summer's almost through. Alright, let me see. Anybody do any... Oh, there is she. Hi, Rishi. Anybody do anything fun today?
I just came back. I'm coming back from my taekwondo class right now. I'll be in front of the computer in like 5 minutes.
Awesome. How was your taekwondo class? We'll catch you. Good. How long you been doing that for? I love taekwondo.
I think like 4 years maybe.
Oh wow, that's a long time. Good that you're keeping that up. I'll tell you guys a story. I tried to do something fun today. You know what I tried to do? I tried to make my own ice cream today, like from scratch. Do you believe that? It was a huge disaster. Oh my God. You know, let me tell you something. You know you're bad at cooking when the smoke alarm goes off when you're trying to make ice cream. Oh my God. I'm never doing that.
You can do that?
Yeah, can you believe that? The smoke alarm went off when I was trying to make ice cream. I am never doing that again. And not just that too, I flooded the sink too. I almost dropped like 5 spoons down the drain. It was a huge disaster. And at the end of it, the ice cream turned out... Yeah, the ice cream turned out chunky. It's chunky now. I don't know what it is. It looks like scrambled eggs. Oh my God. It's still on the counter. And all the pots and pans, I still haven't washed them. Kitchen's a mess. Yeah, so I'm not doing that ever again. I'll stick to buying your stored ice cream, is the moral of the story.
Before you just said that you cooked it.
Huh? did you know that ice cream is made, you have to cook it? Because ice cream has eggs in it. So when you're mixing the eggs with the milk, you have to heat it up so it doesn't go bad. Well, I guess I didn't heat it up correctly because now you can see what's egg and what's milk. Oh, geez. Yeah. Stick to your, I don't know, Stop and Shop refrigerated brand. Alright, so let's start where we left off last week. And let's see. You weren't here for last week's lesson, Landon, but basically it doesn't really affect what we do today, so you should be good. Let me know if you have any questions about it, though. Last time, we talked about reversing the distributive property. We talked about how do we get back to when we have A times B plus A times C. We talked about how do we get back to A times B plus C. That's what we talked about last time.
Now we're going to try to find out how we get there.
Yep. So what we did last time was we learned that when you have a GCF, greatest common factor, which I will give to you in this class, you don't have to find it by yourself, you take every term, every single term, and you divide it by the GCF. All right. So what we're going to do is once we divide, we get x plus y, xy, plus 5, and then we set up our parentheses and the GCF goes out in front. All right. Does that ring a bell what we did last time? So essentially the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our parentheses, and then we divide everything by the greatest common factor. After we divide, we throw inside the parentheses, and we write the greatest common factor on the outside. Any questions on that? All right. We had another problem that we were going to solve for this time, this one. So does anyone want to give me an attempt as to what they have for that answer?
I got 3C and then in parentheses AB plus C.
AB plus C, all right. Let's do it together. So first we set up our parentheses. Now we divide every term by the GCF. GCF is 3C. We're going to divide. So once we divide, we get AB plus C, and then the GCF goes on the outside. Very good, Karthik. All right. Any questions on that? So let's take a look at today's package. Did you guys have a chance to print it out yet?
My printer was not working.
Your printer, oh, that's okay. You can copy it down on a regular sheet of paper.
Yeah, I'm using the online version.
Yeah, oh, you're using the online, all right. And what about you two, Rishi and Landon? You guys get a chance to print it yet? You can always copy it on regular paper, but I always recommend the printed since it's easy to copy directly onto the notes. So let's say that we have a problem like 2xy plus 10. And I made another error when I was writing this worksheet. It says the greatest common factor is 2x. It should really only be 2. So if we had to factor this, factor means reverse the distributive property. We learned how to do this last time, right? Does anyone want to give it a shot? We set up our parentheses.
xy plus 5.
Xy plus 5, yep, so we're gonna divide everything by the greatest common factor. When we divide this, we get xy. When we divide this, we get 5. And then the 2 goes on the outside. So in this case, we were able to do this because both of these terms had a multiple in common. That's the GCF. Notice how each one of these terms was divisible by 2. But now, let's say we have something like this. X squared plus 8x plus 12. Can we factor this? If we're looking for a GCF, this actually doesn't have a GCF. Because not all of the terms have x's in them, and not all of the terms are divisible by 2. Which means that for this kind of problem, we have to use a new set of rules. So our old method is not going to work for this. That's the point of today's lesson. Now, I will tell you, when we factor something like this, today's class is probably going to be the hardest class of the whole summer course. But it's an important class because once you learn how to factor this, you're going to be using this for the rest of your time in school whenever you're doing math classes. So this is important. So in general, we're going to use this method whenever the problem looks like x squared plus bx plus c. This is our general format for when we know to use a problem like this. Do you see how this problem is in the format of this? X squared plus bx plus c. That's our trigger. When we see something like this, we know to use these sets of rules. Now, if you look at the bottom of your worksheet, you're going to notice that there's a lot of writing on the bottom of the first page. I'm going to say don't look at that. Don't read what it says, because it's just going to confuse you if you try to read it without the theory. I'm going to have you turn to the next page where it's at problem 1. And I'm going to walk you through an example of how you do something like this. All right? So don't read the thing at the bottom until the end of class. At least that's what I'm trying to get at. So we remember a few classes ago when we did FOIL. It's okay if you don't, you weren't here for this, Landon. But FOIL was when we had something that looks like this, right? Let's say x plus 3 and x plus 2. And we multiply the first terms, the outer terms, the inner terms, and the last terms, right? So today's factoring is going to undo FOILing. So what that means is that by the time we factor this problem, our answer should be in the form of this. 2 sets of parentheses, each with x in them. All right? Does that make sense so far? So what happens is that whenever we factor a problem like this, we always start by drawing out 2 brackets of parentheses, and we put an x in each one of them. Now, here's the tricky part. When we're doing a problem like this, our final answer, it can either be x plus and x plus some number. It can either be x minus, or it can be x plus and x minus. There's 3 combinations as to what our final answer can be. All right, so far so good? So the question is, which one of these are we going to use? Are we going to use x plus times x plus? Are we going to use x minus times x minus? Or are we going to use x plus times x minus? So the key here is to figure out which one of these we're going to use. We're going to look at the problem. The actual problem itself tells you what the final answer is going to look like. And that's the cool part about factoring these things. Let's look at this. The first thing you do whenever you have a problem like this is you look at this sign. You look at this sign right here, the very far right sign. This sign tells you if the signs in our final answer are same or different. If this sign is positive, this means that our final answer has the same signs. If this was a negative, this means that our final answer would have different signs. Alright, so that would be the answer that goes in your first box. If it's plus, it means it's the same. If it's minus, it means it's different. So now, for this problem, let's look at this sign. It's positive, right? So is our final answer going to have the same signs or different signs?
The same sign.
Same sign, right? Because it's positive. So we go back here to our table of combinations. It has to be the same signs, right? So x plus and x plus, those are the same signs. X minus and x minus, those are also it's the same signs, right? Because they're both negative. This one down here, x plus and x minus, those are different signs. And we just said that based on the way our problem looks, the signs have to be the same. So we're going to eliminate this possibility. We're basically, for lack of a better word, guessing and checking. So we've narrowed it down to two possibilities. It's either x plus times x plus or x minus times x minus. So we got that far. The next thing we do is we look at this sign right here, the sign on the far left. This sign tells us what the sign actually is. So we look at the sign. Is it positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive. So it tells us that our signs are going to be positive. So we're going to use this one right up here. We're going to get rid of this one. So do you see how I use the clues in the problem? I look at the sign on the right first. That tells me if it's the same or different. And then I look at this sign. That tells me what the sign actually is. Alright, so we know our final answer has to be two sets of parentheses, x plus times x plus, and we looked at the signs. The next thing we do is we're going to look at this number right here. See how it's 12? We have to find, and this is the tricky part, we have to find two factors of 12, which means two numbers that multiply to 12 that also add to make 8.
4 and 6.
4, 2, and 6, yep. So Rishi was able to pull that number out of his head. But in general, here's what I suggest. When you do a problem like this, always start by listing out all the factors, all the numbers that multiply and make 12. So we have 12 times 1, right? We have 6 times 2. We have 4 times 3. Once we write them all, now we just have to pick the ones that add to make the 8, that add to make the middle term. So in this case, it's 6 and 2, right? Because 6 and 2 equals 8. And then, you know what we do? It's smooth sailing from here. We throw those two numbers into our parentheses, and we're done. It's 6 and 2. And we're done. That's how we factor a problem that looks like this. Any questions? I know that was a lot of steps. Alright, we kind of see where the rules come from, or we're totally lost?
Kinda.
Kinda? I'm gonna do more problems. I just want to see where we're gauging this. What about you, Landon and Rishi? You guys kind of get it, sort of get it, or totally lost?
Kind of.
Kind of? Yeah, it's a lot of rules. It's a lot of rules. Alright, let's try this. X squared minus 5x plus 6. The first thing you guys are going to do is we're going to write out all of our possible combinations. X plus, x minus, and x plus, and x minus. And we're going to eliminate as we go. So remember, the first thing we do, we look at this sign. Is it positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, which means our set of answers is going to be same sign or different sign?
Same sign.
Same sign. So what can I eliminate?
The one on the bottom.
I'm going to get rid of the one on the bottom, right? Because the signs are different. All right. So we're down to 2. 50-50 shot. Now we look at this sign. Remember, this sign tells us what the signs actually are. So out of these two, which one am I going to use? The top or the bottom one?
The bottom one.
The bottom one, right? Because this sign is negative, and these two are negative. So I'm going to eliminate this one. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at this, and we're going to list out all the factors of 6. So, what do you guys think? What are the factors of 6? What pairs make 6?
3 and 2.
3 and 2, all right. Any other ones? Mm, 6 and 1. People tend to forget that. All right, so now we're going to find two numbers that multiply to make 6, but add to make 5.
3 and 2.
3 and 2, right? Yep. So now we just throw them in here, and we're done. We factored it. Notice how you guys know how I always say the sign comes before the number. We don't separate the number and the sign. In this case, notice how I said two numbers that multiply to make 6 and add to make 5, not negative 5, right? Because what happens is when we're guessing these signs here, we're already accounting for the sign. So when you do it this way, you just have to find two numbers that add to make 5. We didn't have to account for the sign twice. All right. Any questions? And I know people who have finished their year of algebra who still can't do this. So don't feel bad if it's a little tricky at first. We'll have plenty of time to practice with our worksheets. All right, so this kind of problem. So we start by writing out all our combinations as always. All right, first thing I do. What's the first thing I do?
You look at the sign right next to 12.
And what does that tell me? Negative.
But the signs are going to be different.
The signs are going to be different, right? So look at this. Lucky me. I can eliminate two of these, right? Because x plus and x plus, those signs are the same. X minus and x minus, those are the same. So I get rid of both of them, and now looky. I'm left with one option, so that's the one I'm going to use. Now here's the funny thing. We look at when the signs are different. We could look at this sign, but do we really need to look at this sign anymore? Because we're only down to one option. So what we do is we go to the next step. We look at 12. Let's list the factors of 12. Let's list the factors of 12 first, and then we'll go from there.
6 and 2.
6 and 2.
3 and 4.
3 and 4, and
12 and 1.
12 and 1, yeah. Now, here's the catch. And this is where things get tricky, and this is where I sometimes make mistakes too. When the signs are different, like this, x plus, x minus, you have to find two numbers that multiply to make 12, that subtract to make the middle term. When the signs are different, you subtract. You do not add. So in this case, what two factors of 12 subtract to give me a 1, negative 1?
3 and 4.
3 and 4, right? And now here's the thing. I want to make a negative 1 here. Our goal is negative 1. So now we're going to use 3 and 4. But one of them has to be positive, one of them has to be negative. So what happens is, since we want negative 1, we're going to make the 3 positive and we're going to make the 4 negative. Because plus 3 minus 4 is negative 1. You guys see how I came up with that?
Yeah.
So notice we did have to look at the sign this time. When the signs are different here, the sign really does matter. It does stay with the number. Any questions?
No.
My younger brother hates it when I make him do these problems. Because they're tricky. There are a lot of rules you have to remember. Alright, let's try this one. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this sign, right? What does that tell me?
The signs are going to be different.
Signs are going to be different, right? So I can eliminate these. And now I don't have to look at the second sign, right? Because I'm only down to one option. This is the only thing it can be. So now I'm going to list the factors of 24. What do I get? Do 24 and 1, right? Could do 6 and 4. And I could do 8 and 3. Now, tricky part. I have to find the two factors. Oh, sorry, this should be 24. I have to find the two factors that multiply to make 24, that subtract to make negative 5.
3 and 8.
3 and 8. Let's see. 3 and 8. All right. Yep. So one.
3 and negative 8.
Positive 3 and negative 8. Yep. Because the 3, it's negative, so the 5 has to be negative. So we. 8. So we can have plus 3 minus 8 to give us negative 5. So that's a big takeaway. When the signs are different, we have to multiply two terms to make the final term, that subtract to give the middle term. Isn't that kind of weird?
It's a little confusing.
It's a lot of rules, right?
Yeah.
So on the first page, if you look at it, that big diagram I drew on the bottom, I tried to organize out all the rules in writing. But the reason why I didn't have you guys read it earlier was, could you imagine learning that by yourself, reading it? So, here's what we're gonna do. I can teach as many problems, but the best way to learn this is to actually do it yourself first. See what happens, and then ask me if you guys have any problems. So let's go to our practice right now on the back side. Oh shoot, I wrote the exact same problem. Let's try the first few problems on our own, and then let me know when you're done and we can go over them. What do you guys think? harder than last week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Even teachers don't really like teaching this stuff. I'd be cheating algebra if I skipped over this.
Are there the first 4 problems or just the first 2?
Let's do the first 2, just so I can check up to see how you guys are doing. Then we'll do the next 4.
Okay, then I finished.
Alright. Karthik, Landon, you guys need a couple more minutes? Take your time. Yeah, take your time with these.
Yeah.
There's no need to rush.
I'm done.
Alright. And looking through this worksheet, it looks like I made another little typo. Let's see, list out the factors. Sign in front of C. Pick 2 factors. Yeah, this is not a fun. Alright. How are you coming along, Landon? Do you need a few more minutes?
Yeah.
Let me know if you have any questions along the way.
Okay. Able to do the first problem.
You do the first one? Alright. Let's go over the first one then. Alright, so anyone want to offer an answer before we start to see in comparison?
X plus 6 in parentheses,
Mhm.
and after that in parentheses x plus 2.
X plus 6 and x plus 2, alright. Yep. So we start with, this one was the easier of the two. So we start with looking at the sign. This is a positive sign. So our signs are going to be same or different?
Same.
Same, alright. So it's either plus plus or minus minus. We look at this sign. That tells us the sign. So these are both going to be positive, right? Now we list out the factors of 12. And now which 2 factors add to make 8?
and 2.
6 and 2. Good. Good job. All right. Now this problem. This one is harder. Let me just write it over here so it's more room. All right. So we look at this sign. Positive signs. That means same or different?
Same.
Same. Oh, I can't write that. So it's same. We know that much. And now we look at this sign. It's negative. So what does that tell us?
Both the signs in the parentheses are going to be negatives.
Yeah, so they're both the same, but they're both negative. So it's going to be x minus, x minus. All right, now we list the factors of 8, which are going to be 8 and 1 and 4 and 2. How does that sound? Now, the two factors of 8 that add to make 6. Because this one is a positive, so we're going to add to make the middle term. Which gives us, we're going to pick this one, right? 4 and 2. That's going to be 4. That's going to be 2. Any questions on how I got that?
Oh.
Alright, let's try the next two problems. And let's say you get to the end and you want to check. Is my answer correct? You know how you check?
You just do foil?
Yeah, you foil it and you see if you get the same answer, the same thing you started with. So, as tricky as this is, as many rules as there are, there's a good way to check at the end to see if you got it right. So next year in algebra, if you're ever unsure, always double check. This is not a popular lesson in algebra. And as you'll see next year. Just wait till you see the reaction in class the day you do this. It's not a fun day. Or it's not a fun month. Or 3 months, actually. Alright, let's try those two.
I'm done.
You done, Karthik? Alright. Rishi and Landon, you guys need a few more minutes?
Almost done.
Mm-hmm. Take your time. How about you, Landon?
Almost done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done.
You done? All right. Let's see. I'll give you a couple more minutes, Leonard, in case you need it.
Good.
You good? All right. Oh boy. These are not fun problems. At least the second one isn't. So, what did we get for this one? Just curious. Anyone want to offer?
X plus x in parentheses times x minus 3 in parentheses.
Alright, anybody agree? Disagree?
I agree.
Agree? Alright. What about you, Landon? What do you think?
I agree.
You agree? Alright, let's check. I don't know. Let's start with the signs. So we look at this sign, it's negative. What does that tell me?
But both the signs are going to be different.
It's going to be different. Yeah. So x plus and x minus. And then let's list the factors of 18. So we have 6 and 3, 9 and 2. And we have to find the one that subtracts to make the middle term. So the middle term is 3. 6 and 3 subtract to make 3, right? Which one is going to be plus and which one's going to be minus?
The 6 is going to be the plus and 3 is going to be the minus.
3 is, yeah, 6 is plus and 3 is minus. Because we have a positive 3 here. We want the 6 to be bigger so that subtracting the 3 doesn't drag us down to 0 and below. Yep, so this is our answer. Good job. Alright, the next problem. This one's a little weird. Did you guys get an answer for this one? Anyone want to offer an answer? Alright, let's take a look at this. So we look at this sign right here. It's negative, so it's going to be x plus and x minus, right? But now, let's see. Let's list the factors of 8. So we have 2 times 4, 8 times 1, and we need to find a number that multiplies to make 8, but subtracts to make the middle term. Do any one of these combos give us that? Multiply to 8 but subtract to make 4?
You know,
They don't, right? Did anybody find a combination? I couldn't find a combination. So our answer for this is doesn't factor. That's just the way it works. Some things can be factored. So how do you know when you can't factor it? When you've tried every combination and nothing works. Alright, let's try the last 4 problems then. And let me know when you guys are set with those. And the last problem, very last problem, let me draw your attention to that real quick. You see how it says x squared plus 9x plus 19? It should be 18. So make sure we change that. Because 19 is a prime number. Can you imagine finding factors of 19?
no.
Yeah.
It's only 19 and 1.
Yeah, what was I thinking when I made that problem? When something doesn't factor, there actually is another way we can do it, just not this way, which we may or may not get into next week. Let me know if you guys have any questions along the way. Sometimes that's the best way to learn. We try it and we get stuck, and then we ask for clarification.
Question 5 is minus, right?
Question 5 is, it's actually plus minus. Because you see how the sign here is negative? That immediately tells us that the signs are going to be different. So it's plus minus.
The question doesn't really work out. It's 3 and 2 and we're supposed to make negative 5.
3 and 2. Oh, okay. Is there another factor of 6 we can use?
6 and 1, I forgot.
6 and 1, yeah. See, sometimes we just have to keep poking around at it, and it eventually works out.
I'm finished.
You finished? All right. Do you guys need a few more minutes, Landon and Karthik? I'll give you guys a few more minutes. We got time today. Anybody like doing this? No? Yeah. That's algebra for you.
It kind of gets easier if you like practice with it.
Practice. That's the number one thing that that makes or breaks the math.
And then I'm done.
You done? All right. How are you doing, Landon?
Almost done.
Almost done? All right. No rush. Oh, Google Meet's actually keeping track of time.
After a long time, it actually did it.
Oh, you got it?
I said after a long time,
Oh yeah, I don't know why Google Meets. It's been giving me extra time the past few weeks, and then all of a sudden now um, it's timing me again.
I'm good.
You're good? All right. Let's look at the first one. What do we get for the first one?
X plus 1 in parentheses times x minus 6 in parentheses.
All right. So let's talk about how we get that. Did we agree with him or disagree with him?
I didn't hear that.
So you said x plus 1, x minus 6?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
You agree? All right. Do you agree, Landon? It's always okay to say I disagree too, or agree or agree. They're both good. So we look at this. This is negative, so we know that it's going to be x plus and x minus, right? The signs have to be different. So now we list the factors of 6. We get 2 and 3, and 6 and 1. We have to find the two factors that subtract to give us 5. So, which one are we gonna use?
6 and 1.
6 and 1, yep. And the 5 has to be negative. Now we look at the sign. So, which one's gonna be x plus and which one's gonna be x minus?
It's going to be x plus 1 and x minus 6.
X plus 1, x minus 6. Yep. Good job.
The next one is x plus 4 and x plus 3.
X plus 4 and x plus 3. Do we disagree or agree?
I agree.
How about you, Landon? Do we agree or disagree? Alright, so we look at the sign. The first one is a plus. So what does that tell us?
Signs are going to be the same.
Same. We look at the second one, also plus. What does that tell us?
Both the signs are going to be positive.
Both of them are positive, yeah. X plus and x plus. So we have 12, and that's going to get broken into 4 and 3, 6 and 2, or 12 and 1. Alright, so we have to find two factors. They multiply to make 12. They add to make 7. So what's it going to be?
Top ones.
Yep. 4 and 3. Any questions?
No.
Alright, good. Does the way I teach it make sense, at least? I know it's a hard concept, but does it hopefully make it a little more clear?
Yeah.
You can always give me feedback, so I know for next year's group, when I do this again. And I think you guys will see every teacher teaches this differently next year when you're in Algebra 2. So it's going to be interesting. Some teachers do it more direct like I do. Some teachers make a game out of it. It really all depends on who you have. So, alright, we look at our first sign. It's positive. So it's going to be the same, right?
Yeah.
And we look at this sign, it's negative. So what are our signs going to be?
X minus and x minus.
Yeah, they're the same, but they're both negative, right? So now we're going to look at 15. We're going to find the factors of 15. Now, here's the tricky part. Are we going to find factors of 15 that add to make 8 or subtract to make 8?
Subtract.
Subtract? Do we agree or disagree?
I think it's add.
Yeah, we're actually going to add to make the middle term. Because remember, when the signs are the same, we add. When the final answer has the same signs, we add. So it's actually going to be 3 plus 5 is 8. So that's the tricky one. I know it's gonna take some time to get used to, but it's just we see it and we see there's a negative. Oh, do I add or do I subtract? And that's where the rules come in. It's actually this sign right here that determines whether we add to make the middle term or subtract to make it. So let's look at our last problem. X squared plus 9x plus 18. So I look at this, it's the same, right? So same signs. And I look at this, it's positive. So what's it gonna be?
It's gonna be the same.
X plus and X plus, right? Because they're both the same. Gonna factor 18. What are the factors of 18?
9 and 2.
9 and 2, yep.
18 and 1 and 6 and 3.
6 and 3, yes. So now, are we gonna add to make the middle term or subtract? Add, right? Because that sign is positive. So
6 and 3.
6 and 3. There's our answer. So if you look at the bottom of your worksheet, you'll see 3 problems. Try those problems on your own, not right now, but before next class. And next class we'll review those problems at the beginning. But to recap, what did we learn today? We learned how to factor something like this. And we were able to do so by looking at these signs. This sign here tells us, this is just our overview, same or different. It also tells us if we add or subtract. Yeah, if we add or subtract to make middle term. To make the middle term, which is B. And then this one tells us what the sign is. So those are the general rules that we have to keep in mind when we're doing these problems. Any questions?
No.
No? Oh, by the way, what's that?
I said no.
You said no? Alright. By the way, Karthik, do you know anybody named Vineet by any chance? He's around my age.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple years ago. Yeah. He and I have been in class all summer all summer. Do you believe that?
Yeah.
What a small world. He and I are both in emergency medicine school to be EMTs. Isn't that so funny? He must be, let me tell you, he must be shitting his pants right now because he has his final exam coming up on Sunday. Ask him about that. You might get a crack out of it. He's probably stressed out right now.
Yeah, I just saw him yesterday.
Do you guys live on the same street? Is that how you know him?
No, he just comes to the basketball court.
Oh, yeah. I know his brother too, Vincent. He's a year younger than me. Vineet's a couple years younger than me, actually. But what a small world, isn't that? He just talked to me the other day. He's like, hey, do you know Karthik, by the way? I'm like, I have heard that name somewhere before. It's a small world we live in. Good. Well, if you see him at basketball tomorrow, wish him luck on his exam Sunday. And you know what that means. If you call 911 sometime in the future, you never know. It might be me or it might be Vineet who shows up at your door. Alright, that'll be all for tonight. Thank you for coming. And have a great evening.
Same to you. Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.